League winners. Who's going to win the leagues here? The focus today is on the National League as we rack after 1 month and you say, okay, we had late March. Well, I guess you could say mid-March if you take the Dodgers and the Cubs series that they played overseas. But
Mhm.
technically, 1 full month in, it's May the 2nd here. And not a lot has changed with the odds market because most of the time, you know what? Talented teams, if they're not playing well, they will get it together. Talented teams that are playing well, we're not going to
Mhm.
move their numbers at this. And also talented teams that, if they're a little bit injured, those teams like the Atlanta Braves will get healthier over the summer, and we expect really good baseball out of them. So the NL pennant odds here on the FanDuel Sportsbook to win it would be the Dodgers at a plus 140 price, the New York Mets at a 5-1 price now, the Phillies 7-1, the Braves 8-1, followed by the Cubs and the Padres. So we look at those price points up top, and we always start with the Dodgers. Value on the Dodgers. You can say yes, you can say no. What is it, Joe?
No, there's no value on the Dodgers. It's absurd at this point. The only value with the Dodgers is fading them in certain spots, Donnie. That's it. That's where the only value, because everyone they're going to play is going to be a $2 underdog or better. And if you pick your right spots there, that's how you can make some money betting the Dodger games moving forward. But right now, it's very hard to go in a future market with the Dodgers in any way, shape, or form, just because we're 1 month into the season and we all know craziness it can happen. Don't forget, this team's win total last year was what, 106, Donnie, I think. And
Yeah.
everyone was betting it over like they were going to win 115 games. And well, injuries started to mount. They went through some stretches that weren't great. And yes, they ended up winning it all. But yeah, I'm not tying that money up for that kind of price. I'm going to look for other value in fading the Dodgers throughout the regular season.
It does make sense. And also, we talked about that hot start for the Dodgers. Hey, well, they go
Mhm.
162-0 at that point, like the jokes were out there. Then they go on a little bit of a losing streak. But then you look at today, again, on May 2nd, they have the best overall record in Major League Baseball. And theoretically, they're not even playing their best baseball. If you look at the National League and the Cubs, 192 total runs scored. The Dodgers are at 167. The Mets are at 150. The Padres at 118. So there are different ways to play this out. But if you are looking at the Dodgers as the total favorite, you're probably going to wind
Mm.
up being correct. But as Joe pointed out, it's not like, hey, I bet a plus 140 on a Tuesday and just got paid out Tuesday night for that plus 140. That's a nice return. A plus 140 you have to wait 9 months for, maybe not the greatest return when you can put your
Mm-mm.
play and your money elsewhere at that point. The New York Mets
Yep.
also with 21 victories here on the season, followed just by the Dodgers as that tie. You take a look going down there, the Padres, the Cubs, the Giants, the Diamondbacks, and the Phillies. A lot of teams bunched up, and rightfully so, after 1 month into the Major League Baseball season. But if we are looking at that odds market once again, and you're pointing out to the National League and saying, you know what? The challenge to the Dodgers, is it going to be the Mets? I look at the Mets frontline rotation. I'm like, okay, it's pitching well now, but that's not the pedigree I want to really lean on. The Phillies do have a pedigree there. The Atlanta Braves, you're hoping to get that pedigree back, which is basically Spencer Strider, now from a hamstring injury of an elbow injury that he was building off of, and then the Chicago Cubs and the Padres. If you look at the contenders, let's just say these teams, Dodgers, Mets, Phillies, Braves, Cubs, and Padres all make the playoffs. Who's the danger to the Dodgers, Joe?
Well, obviously the Padres know them pretty well, and the Padres also have one of the best bullpens in Major League Baseball. Again, they've been pretty shut down. They do have some help coming back, I believe, in the starting pitching as well. They are not 100%. Dylan Cease is still working his way back to peak form. But the Cubs feel like the Yankees in the American League. It feels like the Cubs, you're going to have to score 12 runs to beat them. And even though the pitching's a little suspect there, Donnie, well, how good does the pitching got to be if you're scoring 10 runs a game? And that's kind of what the Cubs lineup right now feels like. Like they can absolutely mash, and you better be able to hit the ball if you're going to go toe to toe with the Cubs. So I do think there are some teams here that if things start going a little left on the Dodgers, absolute value there on that page with some of these teams down the stretch.
If we keep it from 20-1 or less on that graphic, which again ends with the Diamondbacks and starts with the Dodgers, I don't want to ask you like who again, because I just like who can challenge the Dodgers. There could be a couple teams in there, right? But who's the team that you look at and say it's fool's gold? Diamondbacks, Padres, Cubs, Braves, Phillies, Mets, and Dodgers. Give me one team that, like, you know what? I don't care how much money you give me or a free wager, Donnie. I'm not going to bet this team to win the pennant in the National League.
Yeah, I think the Mets and that bullpen is and quite honestly, even
Mm.
that starting rotation. I think the
Love to see
pitching
it.
for the Mets at 5-1 is a bit of fool's gold here. Their rotation is not as good as what the Phillies have. Phillies do have some issues in the bullpen, but not. I think the Mets are a team that, don't forget, started the season, Donnie. I think, remember, where they couldn't score any runs, but the bullpen was overperforming and nobody else was
Hmm.
scoring against them. I think they overperformed early. Now they've got some injuries, and now we're starting to see that take its toll on this team. I think the Mets are total fool's gold because I don't think they're better than the Phillies or the Braves.
When you take a look at the Braves, too, because they're certainly a lightning rod team, open up the season, looked terrible, played a tough schedule. We get it. Sort of battled back here, right? 14-16 on the season, 7-3 in their last 10 games. Players back on the way. Acuna's going to be back sooner than later. You're hoping that you get Spencer Strider back. How do you play the Braves with the rest of the season? Because for me, Joe, I've said it time and time again, I love the front office. I believe they'll make the right moves when they
Yes.
need to make those moves. How do we view the Braves here from this part of the season where they're still under 500 to maybe the all-star break or so?
Yeah, well, again, they are a team, Donnie. I think we can all agree when healthy and if they have their full complement. And you mentioned the front office and their willingness not to make the splashy move, but to make the necessary moves in order to make this team better. You saw it a couple of years ago when they got Solar, and everyone's like, what are we doing here? And turns
Yeah.
out that was absolutely huge for them. I think the ceiling is higher for Atlanta than it is, meaning we haven't seen the best Atlanta has yet. I think the ceiling is much higher for them. And I think now is a perfect, while they're under 500, a perfect buy low spot on them moving forward here, especially as they start getting some of their pieces back in.
Yeah, I'll tell you, a buy low spot here will be bottom of the National League in the standings, particularly. And by the way, it feels a little
Yep.
disrespectful. Like, at least the Nationals are 180-1, like clear. Like, if you are the Miami
Right.
Marlins, like we know the Rockies are horrendous. How can you have the same price point as the Rockies if you are the Marlins right now? And that's tough times at 200-1 to win the pennant. The question is, like, either one of those teams, 20 games on the season, it feels like. We'll take a look at the awards market in the National League coming up next, right here on the early line. MVP. MVP. Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about next in Major League Baseball, particularly from the National League. Now, yesterday, correct me if I'm wrong, we were taking a look at Aaron Judge and his minus 600 to be the MVP of the American League. Hey, at least you get a little value in the National League here with Shohei Ohtani at a plus 260 price 1 month into the season, followed by Fernando Tatis Jr., Kyle Tucker, Corbin Carroll, Pete Alonso, and Juan Soto. So
Hmm.
this market,
Yep.
we have some ability to talk about maybe somebody taking down Ohtani, because apparently there's not a single good Major League Baseball player in the American League outside of Aaron Judge. Talking about Ohtani at that plus 260 price. Not lighting the world on fire, but still the favorite.
No, and listen, there's a couple of other guys there. Pete Alonso is having, I mean, he's no Aaron Judge, but those two guys, the numbers that they've put up through a month in a season have been absolutely over the top. I don't think you can sleep on Kyle Tucker with what he has really rejuvenated that lineup of the Cubs, who can score with anybody. So, again, it comes down to value here when we're talking about MVPs. Do we trust Ohtani to be healthy enough and to do enough to tie up money there at plus 260? Or do we go down the board with a Pete Alonso at 11-1 here, or Corbin Carroll at 5-1? I think the
Yeah.
National League is much, much closer than right now. You can't even make an argument for Bobby Witt Jr. over Aaron Judge. It's not even remotely close.
You got some monster numbers as you start to get down past
Oh,
Francisco Lindor, too. Bryce Harper, 50-1. Austin
yep,
Riley, 50-1. Ellie De La Cruz, 50-1. Mookie Betts, 50-1. You get the point here. It's just a
yep.
matter of, like, the dam will break, like if Ohtani has to miss 2 to 3 weeks at that point, and then you'll really see that market open up. And quite frankly, the same thing with the American League. But at least Ohtani isn't minus 600 to win this overall market as it goes. Now,
Right.
Cy Youngs that we talk about, right? Tarek Skubal yesterday favored here for the American League. And you take a look at the National League, which we didn't have a great performance yesterday out of Paul Skeens. Now, granted, he's going to have 20 plus more starts the rest of the summer and will be able to figure things out. He's a plus 240 price right now, followed by Yamamoto of the Dodgers at plus 460. Hunter Green of the Reds, who's been very good this year, at a 7-1 price. Zach Wheeler, Logan Webb, Michael King. Skeens. Are we worried a little bit about Skeens now? It's a great time to talk about it after that performance yesterday.
Yeah, well, I mean, the indications are that, you got to be careful with him. And he pitched a lot more, Donnie, last year. You and I talked about it. Like, why are we pitching him in late August and September? Like, what are we doing? What are we chasing here? This kid had come right from college and the College World Series. There was a lot of baseball he had playing, and that's what we were worried about, is saying, hey, there's no reason to burn this kid out as fast as you're doing it. And voila, here we are. And by the way, the signs were there, not just in yesterday's game, but the last couple of starts. He's given up more runs than he's ever done. He's given up more barrels than he's done in before. So this wasn't an anomaly. It's been like that for the last couple of starts now with Paul Skeens.
And by the way, let's flip it down. We're going to have some fun here with this. The National League Rookie of the Year, right? You see Dylan Cruz up there at a plus 250 price. Now, in the FanDuel Sportsbook, most of the players have logos next to their name. Like, I know who Chase Dollander is, and I've seen him play. Eric Wagaman, I've actually bet him on a couple props for the Marlins. But as I get lower down there, like, I don't know these guys. Like, if I asked you who Quinn Matthews is, he's at a 70 to 1 price. Do you know who he plays for? I don't know who he plays for.
No idea. Absolutely none. And none of them are taking the world by storm. So that's the problem.
Craig Yoho? Yeah, Craig Yoho? Well, see, that's what I like.
Yeah.
Now, Joe Friezo's in our ear, the producer, saying they haven't played yet, but you can't be like Brandon Sprott. You know what I mean? Come on
idea.
now. Well, but then also, if they haven't played yet, shouldn't they be so good they're on this list that we should know they're up and coming, right? Chase Burns, 200 to 1. He could be putting fake names in here, Joe Ranieri, and tripping me up at this point right now.
I agree.
How about
and of the ones that we do know, and they're not exactly taking the world by storm here, I'm just saying. Although I will say the kid that came up and pitched for Kansas City the other day against Tampa Bay was pretty darn
give him the
that kid was pretty darn impressive. So it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward with him as well.
Manager of the Year, always an exciting market, Joe, to handicap after 1 month into the season. The FanDuel Sportsbook list. Craig Counsell, the Cubs, at a plus 170 price. Melvin, Schilt, Francona, Mendoza. I mean, come on. Who's the runaway right now? Dave Roberts getting no respect at 12 to 1 right now. None.
Well, you and I could win with that, roster that he has been given. Let's not make it sound like he's managing anything. He's just showing up and wearing a uniform. Yeah, no, he shouldn't be into consideration.
Major League Baseball, it's a Friday. It's a full slate of action, matchup after matchup after matchup, when we got you covered right here on the SportsGrid Network. It's Donnie right side, it's Joe Ranieri, and we got a good one here. Maybe a playoff preview for us. The Los Angeles Dodgers and the Atlanta Braves, 907, 908 on the rotation, 7:15 tonight from the Big A. And look at this favorite. It's big for the Dodgers. Yamamoto versus Holmes, a 178 price overnight here as the favorite for the Dodgers. Now currently sits at 178. Other outlets as high as 180. The 8.5s, they're all gone. They're 9 across the board, which includes the FanDuel Sportsbook. Yamamoto versus Holmes in Atlanta tonight. Any early thoughts from you, Joe Ranieri?
Well, I got to tell you, Holmes has actually done a very good job for the Braves holding it down. I mean, he has been extremely competitive, and he has limited the damage here, giving this lineup an opportunity to get into games. The problem is going up against a Yamamoto that has just been absolutely phenomenal here over his last couple of starts. This is the first game, I believe, what is going to be a 10-game road trip here for the Dodgers. So if you're not looking to fade the Dodgers in this first one, again, this could be the trip where maybe you start picking your spots here. They're always going to be a favorite, right? We know this, but it's these kinds of trips, Donnie, where we're going to look to try to fade the Dodgers in a couple of games. At the look of it, yes, Yamamoto has the pitching advantage, but don't sleep on Holmes, especially Atlanta at home. I would look to back Atlanta early in this game. I don't know that I'd be looking the full game at the minus 180 price here. I like Atlanta early to have the lead here after the fifth inning.
76 degrees in Atlanta tonight, 4 mile-an-hour winds, more from a right foul pole to a left foul pole, so pretty good hitting conditions. If we are just looking at the analytical numbers, Yamamoto comes in number 1 on the card today at a 2.21 xFIP number, an ERA of 1.06. You look at Holmes down there, 28 innings pitched for him, a 4.50 ERA and a 4.71 xFIP number. You always take a look at that Dodgers lineup. It feels like every time you match him up against right-handed pitching, they dominate. Outside of Michael Conforto, everybody has super high weighted on-base percentages, but that's why you play the game on the field, and that's why the Dodgers listed as a heavy favorite on the road. We'll see if they play well, because if you look at their standings in the season, Joe, very dominant at home, average on the road for the Dodgers, and we'll see what this road trip here certainly kicks off. Another big-time series here where a team from the West Coast coming to the East Coast here. That's Arizona, and that's Philadelphia. Merrill Kelly on the mound against Jesus Luzardo, who's been very good for the Phillies as a left-handed pitcher. 905, 906 on the rotation. 645 start tonight from Philadelphia. The line opened up at minus 156 as a favorite towards Philadelphia. That's down slightly to minus 152 at the FanDuel Sportsbook on a live number. The nines overnight, Joe, still nines across the board. Diamondbacks, Phillies in Philadelphia.
Well, the only way you can look to back Arizona in this game is early, because Arizona's bullpen is a hot mess here. They're dealing with injuries at the back end of that bullpen all over the place. And kudos to them for being able to win the last couple of games there at Citi Field against the Mets here. And, you know, Philly last night, Philly played the late game yesterday with Washington, one of the later starts when Arizona had just beaten the Mets. And once again, you know, a 4-2 loss by Philadelphia. Now they got to turn around and get this Arizona team that, again, that bullpen issue. And guys, I mean, how much more can they do? They're not scoring a ton of runs, but the bullpen has stepped up. They're going to have to keep stepping up. I don't think they do it in this first game, though. I think the Phillies end up getting it done full game. And I think that's a cheap price. Under $150 is a pretty cheap price for Philadelphia, who's got the advantage in starting pitching in this one, and bullpen for that matter.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. You look at Jesus Luzardo, one of those guys that was so talented throughout his Major League Baseball career, couldn't get it together with his injuries or just bad pitching. How about this for the Phillies? 36 in the third innings pitched, Joe. An ERA, 1.73, and an xFIP, very manageable at 3.04. You line up that Arizona Diamondbacks card today. Yes, they have good batters in the lineup, but certainly not so good against left-handed pitching. Anticipated to be back in the lineup today, though? Ketel Marte at the top. We'll see once those lineup cards come out a little bit later in the day to sort of add some extra pop to that lineup. Next game we'll talk about, 909, 910 on the rotation. 8-10 start from Milwaukee. That's those Cubbies taking on the Brewers. Brown versus Priester. Line opened up minus 112 overnight. Slightly higher right now on the number at a minus 116 price. As high as 120 at other outlets. 8.5, still sitting at 8.5. Cubbies and the Brewers getting it on tonight from Milwaukee.
Yeah, you got to like that. A little rivalry here, right? A little division rivalry going on between these two teams. And again, Cubs, man, it's kind of hard with that lineup to go against them at any moment. They've got those the big innings coming their way. Listen, neither pitcher is going to excite you here to want to back early. I think runs are coming in this game. I think both lineups against this starting pitching are going to have some success. I'd be looking to go the first 5 over, Donnie. I think both of these guys are going to have some issues here against these two lineups. I think we're going to get some runs here early in this game.
I think you might be right, too. You take a look at 48-degree temperatures and say, well, it doesn't matter. They're inside a dome, so who cares if it's in Milwaukee or not at this point, right? So that's going to help out. But also from a pitching perspective, Quinn Priester, only 19 innings pitched on the season, Joe, a 3.79 ERA, which isn't bad. But look at that xFIP number approaching 5, which means not a lot of strikeouts, too many fly balls, too many free passes tend to get yourself in trouble. And then Ben Brown on the opposite side, he's actually got a better xFIP number than his ERA. 25 and a third innings pitched, a 6 ERA, and a 4.03 xFIP number. If we line up the batters here, Quinn Priester is a right-handed pitcher, Joe. Look at the middle of that lineup. Tucker, high ISO and weighted on base percentage. Suzuki, same thing. Bush, same thing. Carson Kelly. You got some guys in the middle of that lineup can do some damage. Now, yesterday, I actually got a little lucky. I really liked the Milwaukee Brewers yesterday for a team total. They didn't even score a run, but always press this to people. Make sure you see the final starting lineups, because the best hitter, per se, in the lineup should have been yesterday in the matchup was Christian Yelich. He sat that game out, so automatically backed off, and it worked out well. Now, today, Yelich is expected to be back in the lineup against a right-handed pitching Brown, and then you take a look at the weighted on-base percentages. 6 of them out of the 9, extremely high against right-handed pitching. That includes Turang, that includes Yelich, and Contreras, and Frelick, and Hoskins, and Bowers. So I'm with you at this point. We don't have pedigree pitchers on both sides, but both of these lineups squaring up fairly well. And again, 48 degrees in Milwaukee. Oh, Donnie, it's cold. Again, it's played in a dome. It'll be nice and toasty inside that dome. Maybe the ball carries More Major League Baseball on deck right here for the early line. Why do we love Fridays? Well, the weekend is coming up, which we do love that. We also have Good Friday action in Major League Baseball, as well as the NBA, as well as the NHL, and a huge weekend, which includes the Kentucky Derby. So while we continue down that Major League Baseball path, 8:05 start tonight, 9:25, 9:26 on the rotation. It's Seattle and it's Texas. Enter the Woo on the mound there for Seattle, going up against Jack Leiter. The total in this game sits at 8.5 at the opening number. That has now dropped to 8 at the FanDuel Sportsbook and most outlets. You also take a look at that minus 134 price as a favorite, really dipping back to almost a minus 115, minus 118 number. So a coin flip here. Seattle on the road to take on the Rangers. Give me some thoughts on this game for you, Joe Ranieri.
Two teams heading in opposite directions lately. The Mariners are crushing the ball here. Meanwhile, the Rangers can't figure out how to score. It's not been a good stretch. They're still dealing with some injuries, and the Mariners are going to send out their best starter right now with Logan Gilbert on the IL. So, although Leiter has been pretty good here so far,
Yes.
Donnie, you got the numbers in front of you, and he's been pretty impressive here. But Seattle has won 7 straight series, and 15 of the past 20 games they have done. So, pretty impressive stuff. Not that they are taking on the best of competition, but this feels like maybe an early under. I like both starters. I don't trust the Rangers bats just yet. I certainly don't trust them against Woo. So I'd be looking at a first 5 under in this point, because once you get to the bullpens, anything is possible with these two teams.
Yeah, take a look at Brian Wool in the season, 32 innings pitched, a 3.09 ERA, which is very manageable, a slightly higher xFIP at 3.76. But Jack Leiter used to be Jack Light, your money on fire if you started him last year. He has been solid. But again, 13 1/3 innings pitched. It's still early, but he does have an ERA of 2.03 and an xFIP of 3.41. You take a look at that Texas lineup, which does, when Seager's not in there, it's like, what's going to happen here? Mark Simeon's not in that, or Mark Simeon's in the lineup, but not the old Mark Simeon that used to lead off and absolutely do a lot of damage. But that Mariners lineup, by the way, is coming back a little bit. Rodriguez posts well against right-handed pitching. Polanco, Raleigh, Arozarena, Tellez. So they've had some pretty good at-bats here, which is great. That's the only thing that we used to get upset with the Mariners. You'll get that good young starting pitching, and then they get beat 2-1 because they can't get any base hits. We'll see if that changes tonight down in Texas. Let's keep it moving down the list as we go. Again, an important Friday card here, which includes Tarek Skubal on the mound today, going up against the Los Angeles Angels. Rotation, 9:27, 9:28, a 9:38 start tonight. Skubal the lefty, Soriano the righty. This line opened up at around minus 165. It's now up to minus 178 live at the FanDuel Sportsbook. That's 7.5 total at the opening number. As you see, that graphic still sits at 7.5 as well. Cy Young is on the mound today. Does that mean a big difference here for the Tigers in a victory again over the Angels?
Well, I mean, Skubal has been pretty good. And again, the only team that I have seen that has given him any issues really has been the Royals. But, 8 runs in the 8th and 9th inning is what saved Detroit last night. They got a really good outing from Casey Mize, who went 7 innings. So the bullpen for Detroit certainly will be ready to go here if need be. But I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why in the world would we go against Soriano here? Detroit, I mean, why would we go against Skubal? Soriano and that Detroit lineup should be able to put some runs on the board here. It's a low total, but I think that has everything to do with Skubal. And I don't think we're realizing what kind of gas can this Angels team and bullpen is. So I'd be looking at an over in this one here for sure.
Yeah, and also take a look. Maybe that first 5 innings, you take a run line on Detroit, being up 1-0.
Yeah.
I know, Joe, run lines sort of hurt you sometimes, but certainly can help you if the handicap is right. You take a look at Jose Soriano on the season, 34 innings pitched, a 4.50 ERA, and a 3.61 extra number. So he hasn't actually been bad. And then there's Skubal. Outside of those first 2 starts that he's had, take a look at him, 34 2/3 innings pitched. He's got that ERA back down to 2.34 and an xFIP of 2.75. Now, here's where it comes in where you look at the lineups. The lineup for the Tigers isn't fantastic against right-handed pitching, but you got a lot of good lefty bats. Kerry Carpenter, Zach McKinstry, Riley Green, and of course, Torkelson is having a very good season against righty and lefties. But if you look at that Los Angeles lineup, remember all the good vibes for the first 3 weeks of the season when they were pounding the baseball and having good times? Against Skubal, who is a lefty, the presentation is tremendously bad tonight. A lot of strikeouts, a lot of low weighted on base percentages, very few guy with high ISO power numbers. Skubal should be able to walk through this game, but again, that's why they play. 70-degree temperatures out there in Los Angeles tonight. Light wind blowing out the dead center field. We'll see what happens. But for me, if I'm betting the Tigers, probably going first 5 run line with Skubal. 1-0. We walk away a victory.